Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Cunha, along with Joey Jones, Nicole Sapphire, and Joe Concha. The big story tonight is a Fox News alert. A third wave of hostages released by Hamas. Among the 17 is 4-year-old Abigail Adon, an American-Israeli girl whose parents were killed in front of her by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. We have Team Fox coverage tonight. Lucas Tomlinson is in Nantucket, Massachusetts, with President Biden's reaction. But first, to Alex Hogan, live in Jerusalem. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alicia. As the third day of the ceasefire comes to an end, 14 Israeli hostages have been freed today. This brings the total to 40 Israeli hostages, 14 Thai hostages, and 1 Filipino. And among them today is the very first American dual citizen, Abigail Adon. She was found covered in her parents' blood on October 7th when they were killed, and then she was taken hostage. Doctors say, however, as much as they are celebrating this 4-year-old who has now been released, there is one woman who's in dire condition, the eldest who was released today, an 84-year-old woman who was airlifted to the hospital. Take a listen.
She is treated in our emergency department after significant medical neglect for the past several weeks while being held by Hamas. She is currently in unstable condition with risk to her life.
It has been days of emotional video coming out of these family reunions. This is footage of Sharon Hertzman. She's there hugging her son. She was taken hostage along with her 12-year-old daughter, who's hugging her father there before the parents eventually embrace. Noam, the 12-year-old, had always wanted a dog, and her dad, speaking to the press, says that this little girl is now getting a puppy. These are the moments of celebration for people across Israel. And for those who have been reunited, it is relief mixed with a lot of guilt, given that other families have not been so lucky.
She learned for the first time that her son, Amos Moshe, survived. And the moment she saw him and hugged him was an amazing moment. And moment of joy. And the community lost over 100 people that was kidnapped and some of them murdered. And there is no town to return to, no house to return to. And there are other shocking news. So it's a mix between joy and sadness.
We have now entered the early hours of day 4 of the ceasefire, when more hostages are expected to be released. And negotiators say they're hoping to prolong this ceasefire, something that we are hearing both from the Israeli government and Hamas, that is a goal that they intend to follow as well. Alicia.
And we continue to think of all the families tonight. Alex Hogan in Jerusalem, thank you so much. President Biden is back at the White House, returning earlier from Nantucket, where he appeared to take credit for getting Hamas to release the more than 50 hostages so far.
The proof that this is working and worth pursuing further is in every smile and every grateful tear we see on the faces of those families who are finally getting back together again. The proof is little Abigail.
We go now live to Lucas Tomlinson, who's with the president. Lucas.
Alicia, tomorrow marks the last day of the 4-day truce, and President Biden, speaking here in Nantucket before departing, says he wants to see that time period extended, the ceasefire extended, to get more hostages out. He also mentioned he wants to redouble efforts to get the remaining American hostages out. Up to 8 remain tonight held captive inside Gaza.
Have you extracted any guarantees about proof of life for other hostages, or do you have an expectation of how much longer you could push this pause?
Well, look, you know the deal calls for every 10 hostages released to extend another day. So I'm hopeful this is not the end. It's going to continue.
Remember, these hostages that are being released have not seen the sunshine in over 50 days, Alicia, been being held captive down inside those tunnels. President Biden seemed to take credit for his behind-the-scenes negotiations, as you mentioned earlier.
This has been the product of a lot of hard work and weeks of personal engagement for me and my team. We have been in close contact with the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Israel, speaking with each one of them repeatedly over the past few weeks to help secure this deal.
Some Republican lawmakers say they wish they had seen more Americans hostages being released much earlier.
I'm concerned that the Biden administration didn't make it a condition of this deal that Americans be in the first hostages that are released, especially since American aid is going into Gaza right now, into northern Gaza, as part of the conditions that Hamas had. I think when the administration says they know every detail and then tell you that they don't even know if they're alive, that is certainly concerning.
The White House says President Biden spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu before leaving to return to the White House, guys.
Lucas Tomlinson, good to see you. Thank you so much. So, Joey, I want to go to you first, and I think people really need to pay attention to this. One of the hostages who was released is a Russian national, and Hamas said that they did so, quote, in response to the efforts of Russian President Vladimir Putin, a show of appreciation for Moscow's position on the war. So you take that statement, it really puts in stark relief the position of our American president and our American hostages and the job that he has that lies ahead.
No, absolutely. The people from Thailand that were released were done so because of negotiations with Iran and Hamas. And so I think it puts the president in a difficult place to sit there and have one American and have, I don't know, upwards of 9 or 10, I think now, that are kind of unaccounted for. I've heard everywhere from 3 to 10. I'm not sure where the number is on confirmed Americans that are held hostage. And to say that it took 3 days and a lot of back and forth and a lot of days of him getting some heat for not getting an American in that first group that came through, the first tranche. But I think we have to take a step back and say, what does Hamas see those American hostages as? Are they currency to buy their own lives back if Israel closes in enough? Is that why they're keeping a little bit closer grasp on the American hostages? Or do they maybe hit a place where they say, hey, we're going to give all the Americans back if the U.S. will calm down and not help Israel kill us? And so I'm not sure what they see that currency as, but obviously I interviewed Peter Lerner this morning, the IDF spokesperson, said, listen, some hostages are seen as higher value to them than others.
Yeah, and then we also have to not forget the Palestinian prisoners who have been released. And Fox Digital has an alarming story out today about what some of these newly released Palestinian terrorists may receive. Here's the headline: Biden admin accused of aiding Palestinian pay for slay as terrorists profit in Hamas deal, experts claim. From the report, many of the newly released convicted Palestinian terrorists who are part of a swap that secured the freedom of some Israeli and foreign hostages held by the terrorist movement Hamas could receive U.S. funds via the Palestinian Authority. An expert on the matter claimed. He noted, quote, every single terrorist gets a salary from the Palestinian Authority once they are imprisoned. Conch.
A salary to kidnap the elderly and young children like Abigail Don, who was released today, celebrated her 4th birthday on Friday, and now she comes out not going home to her parents, having witnessed them getting murdered. And somehow U.S. dollars are involved in facilitating this. The fear is that this is the new normal of warfare. Are we facilitating the ultimate incentive program to kidnap innocent civilians during these sort of conflicts in order to create leverage for XYZ as far as getting Palestinian prisoners out? And by the way, not petty criminals like we talked about yesterday. These are people who tried to murder Israeli police officers, for example. So this is going to be a vicious cycle that if we continue to facilitate this from a monetary perspective, then what does this mean going forward, and what will terrorists do as far as the playbook, as far as not only attacks, but taking people against their will and then saying, OK, what are you going to give us now?
And Nicole, you know, we're heading into the final day of this exchange that's supposed to occur, and it really kind of brings to mind what happens in the days after. And we can take a listen to the president here because he wants this to continue.
This has been the product of a lot of hard work and weeks of personal engagement for me and my team. We've been in close contact with the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Israel, speaking with each one of them repeatedly over the past few weeks to help secure this deal.
So, Nicole, he wants to continue to extend it, and right now he only has one American in his slot that he's been able to account for, but he's taking credit.
Well, right, of course, the president is taking credit, but yet if you ask him about the remaining American hostages, he has no information on them. We don't know the condition they're in. We don't even know exactly how many they are. And the way I see it is we are funding both sides of this war now. We are supporting Israel, but we're also giving a lot of support and money to the Palestinians, to Gaza, and that is being funded and funneled through Hamas. And at the end of the day, prolonging the ceasefire, calling for a permanent ceasefire without the complete destruction of Hamas just opens up Israel to another bloody massacre. As Joe mentioned earlier, yes, it is so wonderful that Abigail was able to come home today, but she is now an orphan, and that is not something that the president continues to emphasize. They were murdered. There was 1,200 lives that were brutally lost. Hamas has to be completely destroyed. The end goal can not only be getting back these hostages, but it has to be the complete destruction of Hamas for Israelis to live in peace.
Right, and for all the good news that we are seeing right now, which we do welcome, we cannot forget what happened on October 7th. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.